Welcome to another episode of Revenue Leaders Uncovered. Super honored to be joined by Itzik today. If you could introduce yourself and also your awesome company.
Thank you, Oliver, for having me today. My name is Itzik Malka. I'm the co-founder and CEO of 4M. It's a subsurface AI mapping company. And we started a journey 5 years ago from my military expertise trying to find explosives, ended up with something that seems to be like a predictive engine that enables to predict buried assets, but no one was keen and intent to invest in something that could explode. So I had to do some kind of a pivot. Found in the US that the same in my old space, like every 60 seconds, somebody is stepping on a landmine somewhere in post-conflict region space. It's the same in the US that every 62 seconds a utility strike is being cured.
Definitely. Yeah, I know when I first looked at your company, it looks like you're doing some awesome stuff. And obviously, we'll delve a bit more into your background and then obviously the start of 4M. What I would love and probably the listeners would like to understand is what makes 4M different compared to maybe one of your competitors, if you have any.
The enemy is like but but as a CEO you have to have a strong and clear crystallized definition of your mission. And I think to me competition is everyone who sends somebody to the field, like a manual investigation. Anytime somebody wants to dig or break a ground, it needs to send somebody to the field to do a bunch of processes that starts with record research, and then tracing the on-surface features like the manholes, the pedestal, the hydrants, the street light poles, the drainage poles, and all kind of objects that indicates that something is buried and connected. And after that, somebody will go and with a geophysical tool like ground penetration radars, magnetic sensors, and they will try to find the X and Y. And then they will send out vacuum excavation trucks to do test holes to really try and figure out like the depth, the Z. Then you have all kind of recommendation of professional services, pre-qualified engineers that will give you like what's the best route for your new water main implementation or maintenance. And so to me, like every time that you need to do all of that is the status quo, is how people are doing things today, and that's exactly what I want to change and prevent, reduce significantly, and then eliminate the need to send somebody to the field, because from the office you have access to a reliable data that enables you to understand exactly against what you are bidding, against what you are planning, designing, and executing. So you producing a unique data that become a construction workflow. So to me, that's the mission. That's the mission, and that's the competition. And maybe anybody who is sending people to the field is my enemy. But and they know it's a really smart guys. They know, like the story with Netflix and Blockbuster.
Yeah.
They know that they need to invest in digitization as a means to an aim and to the future that holds for them. They truly understands the risk of companies like me and like others that come in with the software play, AI native products, and eventually could risking their environment and their status quo and their like business, core business. So that's to me is like the competition.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. And I think for anyone, you have to highlight those people of, okay, you can have the small fish, they're in the same pond, or you go for the juggernauts. You're like, okay, cool, that's the goal. We're going to take them down, or we're going to make the industry better in a whole. And I think what you guys are obviously doing is reducing the time, reducing the risk, and also eliminating actually the cost of actually making a mistake as such. The delays that could come with a construction project or whatever it be are very costly. So if you can prevent that and provide that security to companies, then and while doing it through AI or any other features that are going to allow it to be a bit more automated and user friendly, I mean, it is a massive bonus for the industry.
Yeah, I like it because recently I posted that utility conflict is another name for a missed opportunity. It's exactly what happens when stakeholders are not aligned and able to work together. But our system is the first like ability, the language and the channel which you could use to really drive the collaboration, the coordination, including the risk mitigation aspect of it. But eventually, at the end of the day, we enables people to like stakeholders within really fragmented industry, many workflows, many stakeholders, many stages, and most of the tools that they use, like some of them are digital, but not all of them. I think our unique data and platform could be like a strong avenue for working and building better and safer and faster together.
Definitely. I absolutely love it. And obviously, wishing you guys all the success with everything. Where I'd love to take the conversation is a little bit about hiring. So I'd love to understand what your method of madness is for getting the right team in place at your org.
Yeah, this is like, do you know or remember? You probably heard that many times. The up and to the right, like the hockey stick.
Yeah, yeah.
So to me, the hockey stick, it's not about the company, it's about the people. Because the company you've built and how successful or strong company you become, it depends on how strong the team that you have built. So it all starts with the people, with the team. And to me, the hockey stick is a journey of a startup. It's a really fast environment, and the company needs to move really, really fast to realize what's working, what's not, and then to figure out what to do next. But if the team that you have are not able to really pace and grow, eventually people, the one that joined you, probably are going to be the ones that are going to drop in the next station. And
Hmm.
think about a bus. Like you have, like it's at the beginning, it's like a really private car, and then a SUV, and then maybe like a minibus, and then a bus, and then a
Yeah.
plane, and then a plane. And every time you land, every time you arrive in, somebody's leaving the bus because it's the end of the journey for him, because he didn't take the opportunity. And it's not like, not everyone could really grow exponentially. So that's, to
Yeah.
me, like the everything.
Definitely. I love the bus analogy because as much as we all like the reality of we hire great people and we can keep hold of those great people forever, it just isn't the reality that there is. That people are going to leave, people are going to get offered more money, or just people are going to come into a company and for any reason of personal reasons or whatever, just not succeed. And that is part of it. And I think as founders, we have to understand that it's going to happen. But as long as a company is moving in the right direction, you will always be able to attract the right talent. However, if you're not, that's when it starts to go wrong. When we start to go back down and suddenly we're losing people quicker than we're hiring, then you've got to start to question, okay, what's going wrong here?
Yeah, yeah, I agree, and I think, to me, like, if you, without revisiting the core values of the company, and the first one is, it all starts with the people, and then the customer. It all starts with the people. Like, it's a really people center company, and that's, to me, like, if you invest in people, if you growing them, if you enable them, if you're making them much better, and you give them the environment to grow, and you have, like, the safe environment, but also like a really working environment. I think you drive, and like clarity around the mission, the vision, the strategy, and also like the processes and cadence and culture. So everything together builds like a really strong environment to grow a company.
What I'd love to understand is a little bit about how you personally go about building the culture within your 4M. I know we touched on that obviously it's people first, but what do you think is key to building that culture?
When you look at my company, 104 employees and growing, it's not the culture and the DNA of the founder. It's the DNA of the team. I brought like the first 5, 10 people, and together as a 10 people, like as a team, we brought the additional 20 people. And now we are becoming like a 30 people team, and together we brought additional 20 and become 50, and then you grow in the company. So the DNA is being built by the people you bring. And there is a cliche about, if you hires like certain degree of people, eventually they're going to hire a certain degree of people, etc. And you want to hire like A players all the time. And you have to admit that some instances you're gonna fail, and but you need to really understand really fast if there is like someone that you think that is not, like, it shouldn't be part of your company. You probably are late in making that decision. Yeah, and probably there are like impacts for not making a decision at the right time. So I would say about myself, even I believe I made like a really tough decisions with people I really appreciate and love, that really contributed to the build of the company. And some instances I waited too long to make that tough decision. Yeah, it's like, it's really emotional thing, but it's a business. You need to understand, like, you need to build a business, and if somebody is not a good fit to the stage, then I think you need to make a decision. But hiring processes, if you think about it, to me, it's not always, but when I realize that I know how to do it, or at least like foundations of how to hire, good people, comes down to three areas. It's the domain. You want to have some domain expertise, because without that, you're probably going to find somebody that could be good at some given place, but it's not sure it's going to be like successful here. So if you bring in like a product guy to a construction software, you definitely want him to come from a construction software environment, or like legacy products. The second one is the stage. Yeah, you bring somebody from a construction software, but it's coming from corporate. It's going to be like a really strong, high risk on taking somebody that knows only corporate and didn't wasn't part of any startup in his career. And the last one is the really tricky one. It's the cultural fit. And you are a human being. You can't really. People tends to be very good in interviewing. How can you figure out if that guy that you sit in front of you is coming from the right culture? And there are traits to take, I think, into consideration, but you are not able to really see the traits during the interview process. So culture, I think it's like leading indicators. If he's like more of a listener, if he's giving you like the right answers, if he's like talking about failures, if he's like grounded, humble, with grit. And to me, I think also you want to try to see like coachability, potential, curiosity. Definitely is something. And if you want to find something to hold, try to find go backwards on his career and life, and try to find like how competitive he is, and what's the past successes he brings with him from any age. Yeah, so I think then you have kind of, and then you have the interview processes which you have like groups that you've been built, and eventually if it's a strong hire that needs to be. I want to speak with everybody that we hires. Some cases, like I'm going to be like vetting a person, and I would be saying like go no go. But in other places, they could hire, and I could meet the person after he arrived at the company. It's really really important for me, like the people, the team, and I really spend a lot of time on with the human resources.
Definitely. I think it's something that we touched on one of the podcasts quite a few, probably about a year ago now, and it was the partnership between, if you're heavily involved in the hiring, the partnership between your HR, recruiter, whatever it be, is so important. They should be, sometimes they're overlooked, the relationships aren't that strong. It's like, oh, it's like an add-on. You're not part of this org. But actually, having a strong relationship with them and understanding exactly why they're putting that person in front of you in the first place is so important. And just sitting down with them, you are the founding person who built the culture. You have the best overview of who you've hired, what we've hired, and why we're hiring them. So the best person to be deciding, okay, is this person going to be a fit? Is you. And as you touched on, interviewing for the interviewing for culture is so hard. If we talk about sales, for example, empathy is one of the biggest skill sets that a salesperson can have. How do you test whether someone has empathy? It's super hard to even get to, and you can't. It's hard to train and it's hard to identify. But it's a strong trait that you would want from anybody in your company to have. It's just at the and especially in the US. I've recruited in the US market for 3 years, and people in interviews can sell themselves so well, and the vetting process does have to be extensive. Otherwise, you will make bad hires.
Yeah, you need to admit or recognize that you're gonna have like pitfalls
Mm.
with picking up on people, and but you need to really understand like how to make the decision to change it, to fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely, and like you said, it's catching it early enough and acting on it. My previous company, where I was a director, there were numerous cases where we hired friends to the organization, and we definitely kept hold of them for 2 3 months too long, which in the end probably was a major factor of why that company went bankrupt. To be perfectly honest, they weren't making money for the business, but they're friends. So we had belief that they would maybe turn around their things and sort of overlook their personal stuff they had going on outside of work. And yeah, it is just acting sooner as soon as you realize will save the bank quite a lot. And I think it's so important. And it is a hard conversation. I remember my first ever person I had to fire was one of my closest mates at the time. And it's never fun, especially when they're your friend. It makes it a little bit worse. But one of the biggest learning experiences for me as a manager at the time was actually going through that and understanding, okay, the next one will become easier, and then after that becomes easier. Hopefully you don't have to fire people, but that's obviously not the reality of life.
Yeah, I have many stories like this one that are really emotional, but eventually a business needs to be run without thinking about like, you have to be really respectful. Saying goodbye, it's also like offboarding. Onboarding is significant. It's how you welcome somebody to the organization and how people treating him, welcoming him. And I think it's important, but not the less important is like the offboarding processes.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
you really want to close the door when you still have relationship with that person, because he's going to be ambassador of the company he just left.
Yeah,
And yeah, and you don't want him to feel like in a way to strongly advocate against the company. And so if you're going to be respectful to humans, and you're going to be separating in a good ways with faith, and strong, you don't even have to have like appreciation, like mutual appreciation, but it needs to be like respectful, both sides.
definitely. I mean, as soon as you let go of someone, especially I'm an external recruiter, that you the amount of candidates I speak to, they go, "Oh, it was amazing there," but then when I got let go, I would never go back and work there for the lack of respect they showed me for the hard work I put in over 2 or 3 years. Or the big layoffs that we've seen where people have worked for companies for 15, 16 years and just let go, and it was just an email from HR and said, oh, if you want to have a call, we can. Well, that person's just given you their life. I can tell you now, when I speak to those candidates, they are not singing the praises of that company. And they will be telling their friends in the industry, they'll be posting on LinkedIn. Suddenly your credibility can go from here straight down to there, and then hiring becomes an absolute mission. I've worked with companies that have struggled to hire, and I've gone, what's the reason? After 3 or 4 calls with random candidates, I found out what the issue was. And it's that they've showed no respect in the interview process. Onboarding was rubbish, and they let go of people like it means nothing.
Yeah,
And it's hard. It makes the job so much harder, and you won't get great candidates.
it's very, what I'm really appreciating is like almost a year ago I hired the executive, and what he did is he went to speak with the somebody I let go, and he really wants to understand like what happened. And he spoke with her, and he came to me and said, I did a back channel on you with this and that, and I want to understand like what happened there. And I was kind of being very transparent with him. I opened like the last performance review with that person, and I showed like how I would say how much data oriented and how much supportive I was to that person. And I was very transparent along the way to give what's working and what's not, and things to improve. And at the end of the day, you need to make the call, and I did, and that's always tough. But he got the he have seen the process, he have seen like how that was managed, and he really felt like it's a fair process, and it's a fair decision eventually.
Yeah.
And yeah, and even though she was like she didn't speak against me or the company, but she was like disappointed.
Yeah.
So and when somebody is disappointed from no matter the reasons, he like holds something in him, and it's probably you need to dispose of it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you can't speak ill of the company you left before and you're disappointed, it's somewhere that you actually did enjoy working and somewhere that you would want to work again if you had the opportunity to do so.
Yeah,
And that's all you can ask from somebody departing the company.
yeah.
Where I'd love to take the conversation is a little bit about, we touched on it earlier, a little bit about your journey. So, obviously, being in the military and then leading up, I'd love to know a little bit more about that journey and sort of what made you feel that you could be a successful founder.
Actually, I don't know to tell even today if I'm going to be a successful founder. And to the ones that really knows me, I always on my way. It's not like even if the company
Mm,
becomes successful, I would never say I got to the point that I could be settled and really appreciates the journey. For me, it's always like a long, never-ending journey of learning.
yeah,
Yeah, but if you're asking me about, I will start by saying I'm really, really grateful for the opportunity to lead my team and the company and the opportunity in front of me. And if you look back to my background and history, you would never find points that you could connect into what I've been doing today. I never graduated anything. Most of my life I spent in the military, special forces, trained to deal with explosives. I was always innovative person. During the military, I found it, but also before that, I was a singer songwriter from the day I remember myself as a kid. I'm still playing. I'm still like keeping it like to the days that I'm gonna, have a road trip with me, my guitar, maybe one of my friends. This is always something I was dreaming to do. It was maybe one day.
Hey, everything's possible, hey?
Everything possible. Yeah, you have to keep the faith. Yeah. So to me, like I just wanted to do something. I resigned from the military because I thought if I'm gonna stay even one more year, it's I was a major, so I know how to do only one thing, and I'm really like focused on one thing, and I want to be the best that I could. So I said if I'm staying in another year, it's probably gonna be another 10, and to be like I don't know, to end the journey with being a general or something like or brigade general like my friends today. So I thought this is the time for me to live. I wanted to be, playing music and be a musician, but I met my wife and we decided to build a family. And my daughter was away, and I thought like I need to take care of few people now, including me. So what do you do? So like in the military, when you train to navigate in really unique places, if you're getting lost, you need to go back to the last point you remember. So I went back to what I know, and I'm like a military guy. I said, what if I'm going to take my military expertise and try to apply it to civilian space? I didn't want to do defense or something. So I decided to do humanitarian aid, but detection and clearance of landmines and explosive remnants of war, and become the biggest company in that space in Israel. Still, the company is like the biggest one in Israel, like 70% of the market belongs to that company, and I'm still hold significant ownership from that company. And I think to me, I was evolving, and I realizing that I need to find better ways to de-risk the process. And I thought I'm going to build like a multi-data source engine that could utilize legacy sources, but mostly imagery with the time lapsing capabilities to see ahead of time by kind of predicting the past with the change detection that we could see. And I was demonstrating this on a specific project, on a real project, came to the Israeli Ministry of Defense and trying to convince them that I used my prototype, and my prototype kind of telling me that outside of the fence of this polygon on a lane that was open to civilians from 1982, there is a strong probability to have a really, really dangerous landmines. They thought I just want to get more money. And they said, no, we are not going to extend boundaries and give you more budget. And I decided to not to leave the site. And I said to them, I'm not going to leave the sites because one day, soon, you're going to remove the fences and people will be coming here and they will go on also in this lane, and it's going to be really risky for their lives, and nobody will tell where the fences were like positioned. So I convinced the military, demonstrated like the what I've seen using my prototype, and they said, okay, we're gonna send a letter to the IMOD, and they got the letter and gave me. We found four really dangerous and highly explosives. Went to Google, asked how can I go ask for money. So build white paper with like the problem space, the YU, etc. And I did it and spoke with almost every angel and also institutional investor in Israel and also outside, but not every. Nobody was intent to invest. And one of the kindest ones told me, Entree Capital, that guy from Entree Capital told me like why he wants to invest, but why he can't. And I used what he said to go and look thesis for investments, and I found the investability thesis. I don't know if you heard about it, like the five T's. It starts by the TAM. Is it big enough market? Like what's the total addressable market? And then it starts and it goes to what's and why now, the time, and why. Show me why do you think people is going to use it, the traction, and then show me the 10x factor. If I were to give you $1, would you bring me back 10? Show me. Why do you think so? Once I realized that that's the hypothesis behind investment, and I went to Google and said, what can I do with something that could seize beneath the ground? And I found like every 62 seconds somebody strike a utility in the space, and I said, whoa, nobody centralized Google Maps for the subsurface. And then I said, I'm going to be the Google Map for the subsurface, like Google subsurface. And it resonated strongly with investors. And I got within a year, maybe a year and a half, 45 million. I used that money to go after the best ever talent I could find. And here we are today, like with a strong, indispensable moat and product, a strong team that's really united behind a really impactful mission to secure the continuity and resiliency of critical infrastructure that people consume on a daily basis, like water for drinking, heating from power and electric, gas, internet from broadband, and eventually mobility. So this is really fills me and
Mm.
motivates me and incentivizes me to why we do what we do. It's a we solving really complicated but really impactful that matters to humans, to people, to taxpayers like us. So that's what drives me, and I really would summarize it: serendipity. Everything I did in my life led me and prepared me to the opportunity in front of me to become the CEO and founder.
Quite easily say probably one of my favorite stories we've had on the show, and we filmed over 130 episodes, and it's mainly because you're fixing a real problem. We have a lot of different softwares on this. Maybe they're carbon copies of other companies, or they're slightly different, or it's just a bit of cool AI that's maybe you'll use once or whatever it be. But this is there's a real issue that you're solving, and it wasn't there, and then your life just allowed you to move in that direction. It wasn't that someone forced you down that route or something. It's just your life path, in a sense, was this is what I'm here for. This is what I was put on earth to do, which I think is amazing. And look, I've seen 4M everywhere, and I did have a little bit of research on your journey, and it is an awesome journey you guys are on, and I'm sure it will continue as well. To finish off the podcast, we always finish with a bit about work-life balance. So obviously you mentioned you've got a child, you've got a wife. Like, how do you juggle building a company like you are, but also having a bit of personal time as well?
Yeah, that's a really, really important question, and thanks for asking it. And I will address it a little bit uniquely, and I'm gonna do even something. You want to say something? No. It's a podcast. Do you know what podcast mean? No. No?
What's your dad like managing working and kicking a football with you or something?
Like a soccer football,
Yeah. What do you like to do with your dad in your free time?
play FIFA.
Play FIFA. What?
Maybe, I love that. I like relaxing too.
Why do you like to come to the office with me?
Time being here.
Oh, the second time being here, but you have been in the other office.
What other? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Being a
that?
CEO, yeah, you go back. Being a CEO, I think, and to me, like I didn't talk about it, but I should have start by like 13, 11, 7, 7. This is 7, and you, a new guy that came 14 months ago. And
Congratulations.
so, and you want to be honest, you have always like professional list of things that you need to work on, and you have the personal list. And to me, and it sometimes it evolves and intersects. But to me, I want to be like a better father, a better husband, a better friend, better partner. So
Definitely. I mean, it is one of the hardest things for anybody. I don't have any children, and so building my company is a little bit different. But even just having my friends and making time for them, like today, I'll finish slightly earlier, and I'm going to go and play golf, and just make time to socialize and do those things. And it's actually one of the hardest things when I launched my company was I made no time for anybody. I wasn't talking to my parents or anything, and I was working stupid hours. But actually, what I found was that I became ill. I became a hermit, didn't want to leave my house. And but performance was good. But as soon as I started to manage everything else in my life better, the performance went like that. It was a drastic increase because
that's important.
having that clearer mind, not thinking about all this other stuff at the back of your mind, you could really focus on what you're doing, and you have that more self-wealth in yourself that yeah, it's something I was talking about on LinkedIn yesterday with somebody about. I do the US hours from the UK, So my working hours are very different, and I can't go Thursday beers in London and do all those wonderful things. But I try to make time when I can, and you integrate work and life together, like you're doing with your son being with you. I think
Yeah,
it's the only
always trying. There's still room to significant improvement.
definitely. I think it's like you touched on earlier. We always strive for more, and what we've achieved is never enough, and it is
Yeah,
the unhealthy characteristic of a founder or a bit entrepreneur that we always want more. But I think also just taking a step back sometimes and appreciating what we have is one of the
yeah.
and yeah, we can't ask for much more than that.
I really appreciate that I'm incentivized and motivated and achieve more. But I'm really really grateful for what I have, and also to be a friend and to lead like amazing team that works with you day and night to really accomplish a strong mission that we all stands for.
Definitely. Well, look, that is everything from the podcast, and I can't thank you enough for sharing your time. Unique as well. I haven't had someone's son on the podcast before, so I love that. That was excellent. No better way to showcase work-life balance. But again, just thank you so much for being a guest, and I'm sure the listeners will love it.
Thank you for the time. Thank you for having me and enable me to tell the story of 4M. Bye bye.